Coming up on this Tuesday edition of Daybreak, the monstrous typhoon that battered the central Philippines over the weekend strikes southern China, killing at least 6, with 5 others missing. A state of calamity has been declared in the Philippines to speed up relief efforts. While the opposition Democratic Party has declared a boycott of all parliamentary activity except for this week's confirmation hearings, the nominee to head the Board of Audit and Inspection is grilled over his ability to protect the board's autonomy and his personal ties to the presidential office. Plus, contrary to earlier reports, US Secretary of State John Kerry says it was Iran, not France, that walked out of recent talks on a deal to end Tehran's nuclear program. The IAEA and Iran agreed to a so-called roadmap for cooperation. Daybreak begins now.
You're watching Daybreak on Tuesday, November 12th. I'm Choi Yuson in Seoul. The Philippine president has declared a state of national calamity as rescue workers in the Philippines struggle to reach remote towns and villages to provide aid to 660,000 people left homeless by Typhoon Haiyan. In a statement Monday, Benigno Aquino said the 2 worst-hit provinces, Leyte and Samar, had suffered complete devastation and great loss of life. Thousands of survivors are still desperately in need of aid as there is little to no clean water or food, and most buildings have been destroyed. Extensive damage to roads and airports are delaying the delivery of aid. Typhoon Haiyan made landfall in the southern part of China on Monday, killing at least 6. The typhoon packed powerful gusts and it dumped 300 to 400 millimeters of rain on certain areas. According to the Chinese state media, the storm also left 5 others missing. Around 30,000 people also have been displaced there. Top military officials and experts from 21 nations across the Asia-Pacific region gathered in Seoul on Monday for the 2013 Seoul Defense Dialogue. During the two-day vice ministerial level meeting, participants will discuss ways to maintain peace in Northeast Asia, the role of Asia-Pacific countries in global non-proliferation efforts, and the role of the military in cybersecurity. Extra attention is being focused on a bilateral meeting scheduled between Korean Vice Defense Minister Baek Sung-ju and his Japanese counterpart, as the two sides have sensitive issues at hand, such as Japan's push for collective self-defense and the signing of a bilateral treaty on the exchange of confidential military information. South Korea's top military chief has warned that the possibility of North Korean provocations near the West Sea is higher than ever, as the reclusive regime has continued to bolster its military strength along the maritime border. Visiting units stationed near the West Sea on Monday, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff Admiral Choi Yoon-hee urged soldiers and Marines to be ready at all times to counter enemy attacks. He said that in doing so, the soldiers would provide some consolation to their comrades who died during North Korea's shelling of Yeonpyeong Island in 2010. The admiral's visit comes just ahead of the 3rd anniversary of the Yeonpyeong attack, which took place on November 23rd of that year. President Park Geun-hye will hold a summit on Wednesday with her Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin in Seoul. The two leaders are expected to discuss a wide range of issues from boosting economic cooperation to dealing with North Korea. Our Hwang Sung-hee reports.
South Korea's possible participation in a joint railway project between Russia and North Korea will largely dominate the upcoming summit between President Park Geun-hye and her Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin. Running between Russia's eastern border town of Hasan and the North Korean port city of Rajin, the 54-kilometer rail link is part of President Putin's goal of turning Russia into a major transit route for trade between East Asia and Europe. The Russian leader has been calling for South Korea's participation in the project, most recently in September at the Group of 20 summit in St. Petersburg, and the two sides are expected to strike a deal this time around. Russia's share in the project currently stands at 70%, and under the deal, South Korean companies are expected to acquire half of that stake, meaning Russia and the two Koreas would each be in for a third. The two leaders are also expected to discuss other forms of trilateral cooperation, including the construction of a gas pipeline running through Russia and North Korea to South Korea, as well as a similar project to build a three-way power line. The discussions come at a time when Seoul is seeking Moscow's help in persuading its northern neighbor to give up its nuclear ambitions. And while some remain hopeful about President Putin promising his full support in return for a successful realization of the project, others are skeptical, saying that the Russian leader will not turn his back on his longtime ally, North Korea. Hwang Sang-hee, Arirang News.
With the parliament gridlocked over a series of contentious issues, the leaders of the ruling and main opposition parties sat down for talks on Monday. But ruling Saenuri Party leader Hwang Woo-yeol left the office of Democratic Party leader Kim Han-gil without any agreement in place. Hwang asked for cooperation in breaking the deadlock and to approve pending bills on improving the livelihoods of the people. Kim demanded special probes into the National Intelligence Service over its alleged meddling in last year's presidential election and the prosecution over its initial investigation into the matter. While neither could agree, both leaders did note the importance of passing pending bills and budget proposals related to improving the livelihoods of the people. Moving now to a confirmation hearing at the National Assembly, President Park Geun-hye's nominee for head of the State Audit Board was on the hot seat on Monday. His political neutrality and independence were under scrutiny. Our Kim Hyun-ji has more.
Lifelong Judge Hwang Chan-hyun, most recently chief of the Seoul Central District Court, took the witness stand at the National Assembly Monday as a nominee to head the State Audit Board. Lawmakers concentrated on whether the new inspection chief, who was handpicked by President Park Geun-hye, would be able to stay politically neutral and independent when carrying out inspections and audits of state accounts. One opposition lawmaker asked whether Hwang would be willing to launch an inspection into allegations that National Intelligence Service agents posted some 55,000 political comments on Twitter in favor of ruling party in the run-up to last year's presidential election.
Regarding the intelligence agency scandal, a trial is still ongoing. It would be inappropriate for the Board of Audit and Inspection to launch an inspection into such a case.
The top seat at the Board of Audit and Inspection has been vacant since August, when former Chief Yang Gun stepped down. Yang, appointed during the Lee Myung-bak administration, had 19 months left in his term, but resigned for reasons still unclear. Some have criticized President Park's nomination of Hwang as being determinant on his ties to Presidential Chief of Staff Kim Ki-chun and Senior Secretary for Civil Affairs Hong Kyung-sik.
The presidential chief of staff and I graduated from the same middle school, but we never met prior to my nomination. The senior secretary for civil affairs and I also went to the same middle school, but we didn't keep in touch and only met when there was a meeting for legal professionals.
The hearing's morning session broke down because the nominee did not turn in the financial, health, and career records that lawmakers had asked for. The confirmation hearing for nominee of the State Audit Board chief will come to an end Tuesday. Meanwhile, the National Assembly will launch a separate hearing to confirm President Park's new nominee for Welfare Minister on Tuesday as well. Kim Hyun-ji, Arirang News.
Korea saw its information and communications technology exports reach a record high last month, largely due to an increase in shipments of secondary batteries, semiconductors, smartphones, and digital TVs. The Trade Ministry says the figure amounted to about $16.2 billion in October, up over 11% from the previous month. The smartphone sector posted record high sales in October, which pushed up exports by over 30% compared to the same month last year. ICT exports also rose more than 10% in the first 10 months of the year compared to the same period last year. Cultural enrichment is one of President Park's key national goals, but what exactly is cultural enrichment? Answering that question was the focus of a seminar at the National Assembly on Monday, as was coming up with ways to achieve it. Our Park Ji-won reports.
Culture has been emphasized as a key to solving the nation's social divisions and as a basis of the creative economy since the start of the Park Geun-hye administration. And cultural enrichment, as it's called, is one of the Park administration's 4 main national goals, along with the creative economy, the happiness of the people, and building a foundation for peaceful reunification. With this vision in mind, the government launched a Presidential Committee on Cultural Enrichment in July to devise more effective policies in the area of culture by reflecting diverse voices from the cultural world. While the Presidential Committee came up with a concrete set of both short and long-term measures, a roundtable discussion was held at the National Assembly on Monday. Ruling Saenuri Party lawmaker Kim Jang-sil and the Korea Culture and Tourism Institute co-hosted the seminar.
The seminar aims to explain the meaning of cultural enrichment, which is one of the main goals by the incumbent government, and how the concept can advance beyond pop culture and Hallyu.
The concept of cultural enrichment can be understood in 2 ways. Promotion of cultural creative activities, such as encouraging cultural activities or welfare for artists, is one side of cultural enrichment. The other side is that culture is no longer limited to the culture ministry, but begins to permeate every sector of society.
During the discussion, cultural experts shared their views on effective cultural measures and diverse aspects of cultural policies that need special attention. The second part of the seminar focused on how culture could contribute to the country's creative economy through the advancement of related content industries. To help bring about cultural enrichment, participating lawmakers and the Korea Culture and Tourism Institute pledged that the points made at the seminar will be reflected in their future research and activities. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
If you want the latest news from Korea and around the world.
Return to the negotiation.
President Park Geun-hye, given the current circumstances.
On your way to work or at home.
Ministry. The legislature will convene a...
Tune into Daybreak on Arirang TV.
Prime Minister Shinzo Abe said Tuesday. The International Atomic Energy Agency has reached a roadmap for cooperation with Iran over its disputed nuclear program. As part of the agreement, international inspectors would be allowed access to 2 key nuclear facilities in Iran that have not been regularly inspected. The head of the IAEA, Yukiya Amano, said on Monday that the development was an important step forward, but stressed that much more was needed to be done. The nuclear watchdog wants access to the Parchin military site southwest of Tehran, where it suspects Iran at one time tested triggering devices for nuclear weapons at Parchin. And in a related development, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry says it was Iran that backed out of a deal in Geneva last weekend, denying reports France delayed the agreement. More talks between Iran and world powers are scheduled for November 20th. Syria's main Western-backed opposition group says they're open for peace talks sponsored by the Americans and Russians, but only if certain conditions are met. A statement released by the Syrian National Coalition on Monday outlined the preconditions, which call for humanitarian aid being allowed into besieged areas and political prisoners to be released. This represents a softened stance, as the coalition had previously said they would not take part in any peace talks unless the removal of President Bashar al-Assad was at the top of the agenda. The U.S. and Russia want to start peace talks in Geneva aimed at ending the 2.5-year civil war by the end of this year. Legal proceedings on the compensation of Korean victims of Japan's colonial rule and Korea's import ban on Japanese fish products dominated bilateral economic talks in Tokyo on Monday. Reports say the Japanese side repeated its request to Seoul to seek ways to prevent Korean courts from ordering Japanese firms to compensate Koreans forced into labor as the rulings negatively affect bilateral economic relations. The Japanese foreign minister made a similar request in September, and Japanese business groups last week issued a statement in opposition to the court decisions. The Korean officials said they would wait for the Korean Supreme Court's ruling on the cases. As for Tokyo's request for Seoul to ease fish import bans, the Korean side said Japan would first need to ensure the safety of its products from Fukushima and surrounding areas. The Berlin Philharmonic, one of the world's leading orchestras, will perform in Seoul later tonight on this Tuesday. The orchestra, led by artistic director and chief conductor Sir Simon Rattle, will present a range of classical and modern works, including Schumann's Symphony No. 1, Prokofiev's Violin Concerto No. 1, and Bruckner's Symphony No. 7. This is the orchestra's first visit to Korea since 2011 and its fifth in total. Sir Simon Rattle was in Seoul at a press conference earlier on Monday, and let's hear what he had to say about performing in Korea.
This is one of our profoundest audiences. We feel the long tradition and understanding of our music here. That's always very, very noticeable. And we've brought two wonderful programs with us which show so many different sides of the orchestra. So, no, it's a very special thing for us to be back here.
Concertmaster Daishin Kashimoto will perform as an accompanist for the violin concerto. The concerts will be held at 8 p.m. on both nights at the Seoul Arts Center Concert Hall. A new robot developed by Japanese scientists claimed to be unbeatable against humans when it comes to the game of rock, paper, scissors. The technological achievement, however, isn't aimed at revolutionizing schoolyard games. It's to give a glimpse at how robots in the future could interact with people. Paul Yi shows us more.
Game after game, move after move, it's a futile battle of man against machine in the game of rock, paper, scissors. Scientists at the University of Tokyo unveiled this week the second generation of their so-called Janken robot, which they say is so fast that no human opponent can beat it. The three-fingered robotic champion was developed at the Ishikawa Oku Laboratory, which focuses on replicating human senses through high-tech robots. However, if we slow things down and take a closer look, we see that Janken is technically cheating. Through high-speed cameras, lightning-fast mechanics, and advanced software, the Japanese robot closely observes human hand signals in order to make the winning counter-move. And it all takes place in just a single millisecond, creating a seemingly flawless performance to the human eye. Researchers hope that the fast prediction system can be used in a wide range of applications, and even one day provide future robots the ability to accurately anticipate your every move and respond accordingly, from saving you from life-threatening accidents to cheering you up when you're down. It's a brave new world as advancements like these keep pushing the boundaries of technology and surpassing our own limits. Paul Lee, Arirang News.
And a good Tuesday morning to you all as we kick things off with the 2013 KBO Stove League. Of course, with the first day of the negotiations taking place yesterday with some of the top names in free agency, things didn't change much, except for all the players saying, "Show me the money." A top FA of the season, Kang Min-ho of the Lotte Giants, probably had the best day after meeting up with the team. Sources say that the Lotte Giants are expected to offer at least 6.1 billion won over the next 4 years, or roughly $5.68 million. Meanwhile, Lee Yong-gyu expressed interest in staying with the Kia Tigers, asking for at least the same amount he was making before, while Chung Gun-woo of the SK Wyverns and Lee Jong-wook of the Doosan Bears continued to seek top money from their teams. And shifting over to the majors, where Choo Shin-soo continues to seek a major contract this offseason. The only problem is teams are starting to shift away from him. While the New York Mets were the front-runners in the Choo Shin-soo sweepstakes, turns out the team isn't willing to pay $100+ million for a hitter who struggles against lefty pitching. Sources say that the team is looking into possibly signing Norchika Aoki of the Milwaukee Brewers instead. The Houston Astros, who also showed a ton of interest in the Korean slugger lately, recently stated that his price tag is way too high and might pass up on him this season. Meanwhile, another likely destination for Choo Shin-soo might be his former team, the Seattle Mariners. And moving on to some international football, where Son Heung-min of Bayer Leverkusen in Germany's Bundesliga continues to make noise after scoring a hat-trick over the weekend. And once again, he's been named in the best 11. One German daily newspaper named Son Heung-min as one of the best 11 players in the 12th round of the 2013-2014 season after he tallied a hat-trick and an assist against his former team, Hamburg SV. Add to that recognition, Kicker magazine also named him the Player of the Week, as he continues to become one of the top strikers in the league. Meanwhile, the Korean international returned to Korea on Monday in preparation for the upcoming friendly against Switzerland Friday night. Now, if you thought Korea was a powerhouse in just these short track events, think again, because now speed skating is another event where the Koreans seems to be dominating now as the Sochi Winter Games approach in a few months. And the trio that's making the headlines since the 2010 Vancouver Winter Games are Lee Sang-hwa, Lee Seung-hoon, and Mo Tae-bum. Recently at the Speed Skating World Cup in Calgary, Canada, Lee Sang-hwa continued to shine, setting a new world record in the 500-meter event, where Lee Seung-hoon set a new Korean record after finishing third in the 5,000-meter event. As for Mo Tae-bum, he too finished off with a medal, earning a silver in the men's 500-meter event. Now, the trio are expected to continue their dominance going into the 2014 Sochi Winter Games. And now finishing things off on the basketball courts, where the 36-year-old Samsung Insurance Life coach in the WKBL, Park Jung-eun, finally had a retirement ceremony. The Samsung Insurance Life taking on KB Stars last night, everyone on hand congratulated Park on her career, where she played the entire 18 years with one team. Known as one of the premier forwards in the league's history, Park averaged 13.5 points per game and became the first player to score 1,000 career three-pointers. Now, she made her debut back in 1995 and was part of the national team 11 times. And that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day and see you guys again for your sports needs.
Happy Tuesday morning to you. I'm Lee Ji-hyun with your latest weather updates. Well, it may only be a third week of November, but wintry chill is definitely here. The cold front has worked its magic and chilly temperatures are in store once again for today, with highs struggling to reach low teens in most regions. And we will continue to be under the influence of high pressure fronts, so expect to have clear blue skies all day long across the nations along with strong winds. So cold and flu activity level will be remarkably high today, so please do dress warmly and take good care of yourself. Well, most colds are caused by viruses that are in invisible droplets in the air we breathe or on things we touch. And medical experts say the most effective way to prevent the spread of disease is for people to wash hands with soap and water. So please do so to prevent getting sick. And of course, once again, bundle up before heading out. But the good news is, though, the temperatures are on the rise to go back to seasonal norms. So tomorrow, morning lows and afternoon highs should be a tad warmer than today, but not today. It's gonna be a cold one. So let's take a closer look at those readings. Seoul is starting out at -1 and will only make it up to 10 degrees Celsius, which is 15 degrees in Fahrenheit. And Daegu and Gwangju will get up to 12 and 11, while Busan sees a high of 13. Now let's see how other regions are looking. It looks like Jeju will get up to 12 this afternoon under lots of sunshine. Daejeon and Dokdo will top out at 11 and 8, while Mount Kumgang have a freezing day in store. Now that's all for Korea, and here's the global forecast for viewers around the world. That's all from me at this hour. Enjoy your morning commute and hope you have a wonderful day. Now let's send it back to Yusun in the studio.
Thank you, Jiyeon. And that's it for this Tuesday edition of Daybreak. Thank you for watching.